Now, we begin. Once again, beloved friends, we join together with you because we remain as committed as you are to discovering ever greater depths of God's presence, ever greater depths of our own presence, ever greater depths of what alone is true always, of what alone is unchanged, unchanging, and unchangeable forever. Indeed, beloved friends, we would speak unto you in this hour of that which deepens the understanding of abiding in perfect knowing, in perfect knowledge. We want to address for you a theme that you have heard before, though from a slightly different perspective. That theme goes by a term that most of you are familiar with, and that term is karma. Karma, as popularly considered, means that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. For everything you put out, a similar energy returns. Now, I have said before that karma can exist only where unconditional loving does not. This means that to the degree that your mind has not been purified of fear, that the mind has not been purified of need, that the mind has not been purified of its tendency toward idolatry, that is, creating something which is a substitute for love, mistaking form for content. Wherever this is occurring, you are indeed experiencing the creation of karma. And what do we mean by that? Each time you hold an unloving thought, you are going to experience the effect or the fruit of that thought. In reality, there are two levels at which this occurs, or two ways in which it occurs. First is immediate, the second is mediated through the forms of time. In the first, in that which is immediate, the very moment you think an unloving thought, as you are as a physically embodied being, you immediately alter the electrical flow of energy throughout the physical system. You immediately alter the chemical balance of the body and thereby experience tightness in the body, sadness perhaps, depression, an overall ill-at-ease feeling. Every negative thought, not just the big ones that you really get your attention wrapped about, but even the small ones, this is still true. Depression can only occur in a mind that has been denying its pathway to joy. Depression, then, is the result of a resistance to the true flow of life throughout the body-mind. This resistance occurs in many ways. It can result as the result of not feeling a feeling to its completion, withholding a simple truth, and more often than not, from denying the impulse of the heart. And as you begin to walk a spiritual path and realize you need to be open to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, that in fact that you cannot awaken yourself, because if you could, you would have already done so. And then the opportunities are presented that contain within them all that you need to awaken from your illusions. but you resist it because it doesn't conform to your image of yourself. So you see, there are many ways in which you can resist and create a blockage in the flow of energy through the system. It is all around some form of a negative thought, and all negativity is an expression of fear. All attempt to control another is really fear. Anger is merely a form of fear. So, the very moment in which the mind is used to think a negative thought, there is a very immediate karmic effect. Given that effect over a period of time, and illness is created in the body. Depression is created in the emotional field. Now, secondly, there is a mediated form of karmic response. Namely, that the world around you will, over a period of time, coagulate, create itself in a context that will mirror to you that which seems to prove the negative thought that by now you've forgotten you even created. And then you will have the negative thought again, and you will mistakenly believe that the negative thought is there because of the conditions outside of you. An example would be for someone to see an event occur in life, such as the government raising taxes, and then says, yep, I've always known that that's the way it is. You cannot trust a single politician. And yet that one is not seeing that 15 years ago they decided that politicians could not be trusted because they heard it from their father, and knows in the sense of their mind that the politicians will always do something to take more money out of his pocket. Then 15 years later, when taxes are raised, the mind says, I knew it, I think I must have been right all along. See what they did? This means that politicians can't be trusted. When in fact, the politicians are merely the manifestation that fulfills the prophecy. In this way, I want to invite you to look at your life. How are the events that are occurring, the quality of life you're living, how could they possibly be reflecting a self-fulfilling prophecy? Or how, in other words, could it be merely the fulfillment of the karma of how you're using the mind? Usually, in this secondary form of the way karma shows up, the beliefs or thoughts are very, very old, deep in what you call your unconscious. In fact, as you go back in time and look at your life and ask, what must I have believed previously for this effect to be showing up? For instance, if it is regarding money, if you have no money, look well at what you have believed about money in the past. Especially look to see what were the beliefs about money that my parents held. For indeed, as we've touched on before, each soul drops in a sense into this world through the context of the parents. There's a context of perception, belief, and attitude that you begin to be colored by because you are accepting that coloration into the field of your own energy as a means of making contact with this world and emerging into it. If, for instance, the parents believe that spirituality and material wealth cannot go together, and therefore to be spiritual means to do without materially, then look at how your life has evolved. Do you find a block at receiving monies for being of service to others, but no block in receiving money for doing something you dislike? Live in that question, beloved friends, and begin to apply it to the whole of your life. Begin to look at your life, look at the effects you experience as your surroundings and your context. Are you alone with no lover or friends? What have you believed about the world previously? For somewhere it is the nature of your thought, the agreements you've made unconsciously or consciously about what things mean, the agreements you've made with the culture in which you have been birthed, the family into which you've been birthed, that is actually generated the energy that is showing up as the effects you experience as your life. What thoughts or beliefs were you holding within the mind? One common thought might be, I just can't really make it on my own. I need to be taken care of. I don't believe I have what it takes. Then 25 years later, you wonder why you feel resentment toward the mate. The resentment is merely the recognition that you thought a negative thought about yourself, acted upon it, and have created the effects of someone who is controlling and provides you with all your money. You think there is a fault in them because you have forgotten to see the pebble that you dropped into the pond of omnipotent creativity, which is the domain of the mind. Karma, then, is an effect of how the mind is used. Now, I have indeed said that karma can only exist where unconditional loving does not. What does this mean? When the mind unconditionally loves, it loves first itself and places no conditions upon what it receives as ideas from the universe. There are many in your world that look up to those who take the greatest chances in life. The actor or the actress who waits on tables at some cheap hamburger stand, sleeps on a park bench, keeps taking acting classes, and finally gets the part and becomes rich and famous. And yet that one who became rich and famous is one who received the impulse of a desire to act and followed up on it and was willing to do whatever it took to be in the contexts in which something may or may not occur. The willingness to take the risk. Such a one is living actually in a state of unconditional love of the self. And whether they think about it or not, they are carrying the subtle belief that the universe will somehow arrange itself and will support them to follow their heart. In unconditional loving, karma does not exist. The example I've given you is just a rudimentary phase of unconditional loving. In its mature state, in its spiritual state, unconditional loving means that the mind has awakened and seen that nothing that occurs in life can cause it to contain or withdraw its love. In the perfection of unconditional love, the mind simply loves. Karma, then, cannot be said to exist because that mind is no longer experiencing effects coming back at it. It has transcended the world of cause and effect, and regardless of what arises, it merely loves. And who can be imprisoned? Who simply loves. So there is a transcendence of karma through unconditional love, and unconditional love is always the fruit of the decision to love oneself. Not because it's a duty to do so, not because it'll make your husband love you more. You love yourself because you finally recognize that you might as well. That's all. You love the self because your Creator loved you enough to create the self. There truly are no effects that are occurring as the result of a source of power outside of you. In other words, nothing is being done to you. Nothing. And you are free in each and every moment, through the power of love, to free yourself of what looks like the effects of the world. In truth, you are never at the effect of anything but the illusions of thought and belief that you have learned to project onto the world. Many of you feel somewhat fearful of telling your friends and neighbors that you listen to tapes in which a human being is channeling the guidance of Jesus or Jeshua. That very fear that you feel, that constriction, is karmic. Somewhere a long time ago, you decided that following your own pathway must stay concealed and isn't worth very much, that nobody will agree, and that their opinions decide your worth. I would ask you this question: could there be fear in simply sharing with your friends that you listen to channeled tapes of Jesus of Nazareth? Could there be fear of sharing that if there was no prior belief that the opinions of others has the power to decide whether you're good or bad, worthy or unworthy? If that was not in place, there could not be the fear. So somewhere you have believed that there is a world outside of you whose opinions matter. Where then in your life do you limit your expression of your joy and your fun of simply being alive because you are concerned about the approval of others? Karma is a most interesting concept, and it shows up in many, many ways. Where are the effects I experience in my life the result of karmically induced thought, as opposed to thoughts of unconditional self-acceptance? Beloved friends, the fact that you are experiencing yourself as a body-mind is in many ways karmic. That is, it is the result of the vast expanse of mind to dare to think a tiny mad idea and take it seriously, that I could separate myself from the love of God and create an experience that convinces me that I have succeeded at achieving separation. And yet unconditional love transforms the experience of the body into something quite different. Unconditional love of self translates the life of the body-mind, the life of paying taxes, the life of keeping your car well oiled. All of it is translated so that the world becomes not something that proves your unworthiness, your separation, but rather as a medium of communication in which magic, in a sense, is always at play. Miracle-mindedness is always at play. You go to take your car to fill up your gas tank. Because your heart is open, your mind is open, you're not in resistance to it, your eyes are open, you look around you, and you feel the energy of somebody at the pump on the other side of the island. I believe they call it an island. I do not know how they can call it an island. There's no water around the concrete. However, on the other side of the island, you feel the energy of someone, and because your heart is open, you go up to them and say, "Oh, I'm just here pumping my gas. I looked up and saw you. You've got a great smile. You've made my whole day. Thank you." And then a conversation is struck, and it is discovered that they're looking for someone in their corporation who happens to have your skills, and you're looking for a new job. The things of the world become translated into that which supports your ever-increasing joy, success, fun, pleasure, material improvement, new friends. It supports all of it when you see through the eyes of love. When you literally look at the world around you and finally get that it was never what you thought it was because you failed to separate yourself from God. And everything you see is there to support your happy experience. You are free to live in your highest joy, to ask for what you want, to open the heart in love, and the universe will respond according to the beliefs you hold about yourself within yourself. Look at your life then as indeed your karma, action that is occurring in response to a former action. One of the most powerful things you could ever do is to ask the question, what must I have believed is true about the world to be living the life I am living now? This is not to say that karma is wrong or bad. It is not. It is merely effect, cause and effect. Where in the effects I'm experiencing now can I bring a greater degree of unconditional, loving acceptance? Where am I looking through the eyes of boredom instead of appreciation? Where can I bring a greater depth of unconditional love? Where can I let go of resistance? Where can I give up trying to direct my own life and allow the love of God to direct my life? Karma can be transcended by translating it into something else. Karma can become the fulfillment of your purpose, your very way to extend and teach only love. or when you see that the effects called your life are the result of limited or fearful or negative thoughts or beliefs you have held about yourself and about the world, you can embrace the effects you've created and see them in a new light. I choose to allow these very conditions to be those conditions under which I now learn to choose love. What can I appreciate in this moment? What can I give forgiveness unto? Where can I overcome fear of speaking out and share a truth with a friend? What have I been avoiding that I can now embrace? In that very means, any set of conditions created as the effect of fear-based thinking now becomes the very pathway that will lead you to transcend the negative thinking and enter a domain of the use of the mind that will create effects far more enjoyable, far more expansive than you've ever imagined. Do not then lament your life as it is, for it is absolutely perfect. And each set of conditions contains within itself everything you need to translate your life into that which expresses your love of God. Never lament what you create. Never lament what you experience. Never judge yourself and say, oh, why did I do that? I should have done this other thing. No. Appreciate what you've created. Find what can be appreciated within it. Wrap the arms of your love around it. Bring unconditional love to it. And thereby you will find a window, a doorway, the creation of a new use of the mind that must necessarily require the universe to rearrange itself to accommodate the new vibration. Appreciation and love and unlimitedness requires the universe to show up in a different way. Karma is not your prison, in other words. Bringing your attention to the effects you create is a pathway to great freedom. What you did in the past to create the effects that you no longer want was not a sin or a mistake. It was merely a free choice in order to create experience. Okay, you've been there, you've done that. Now, bring love and appreciation to the very effects that you may be judging. Why did I buy that stock? It was so silly. I didn't get enough information, and now the company's gone bankrupt, and I just lost $10,000. Let me be in appreciation of this very effect. Yes, wow, this is fantastic. I created experience for myself. I can do more of this. This is great. Oh, I just love myself so much. I can decide, oh, this is great. I just learned a valuable lesson. Next time I'll get more information. I'd like another opportunity for a great stock opportunity to make money. Yeah, so I'm going to be an expert at this. I can see it coming through my unconditional love. Yes, yes. In fact, every time you think you failed, celebrate. Celebrate your so-called failure as though it were a success. For remember, it is up to you to decide what you will perceive. Events are just neutral. Therefore, you're free to celebrate what you call your failures. And when you celebrate them, they are your successes. Any successful person knows but they never fail. They merely learn and become wiser. Become one, then, who is no longer at the effect of karma, but rather become one who uses karma wisely by looking honestly at their life, learning what needs to be learned without judgment, but rather in celebration. Become one who translates their karma into the doorway to an ever-increasing awareness of God's presence and perfect love, spread across the face of the earth, permeating everything you see, translating the world into the very means that can uplift you, awaken you, care for you, and heal you. And so, beloved friends, again we ask that you listen well to the theme of this hour, to the questions that have been given unto you, that you spend time with them. For you see, in the way of knowing, the mind that abides in a perfectly liberated state knows that the world of effects that that mind is experiencing contain within them the very secrets to an ever-increasing delight in the presence of God's love, that there is no such thing as failure. There is only ongoing success as life evolves from good to better to best, as the mind learns to be the presence of love. Freedom is love under all conditions. And with that,